All right, and we are back right after the Ravens beat the Browns 23-16. The Browns fall to 2-8, and the Ravens move to 5-5. They started off 1-5, and now they've won four straight. So that's always cool. Love seeing that. Love the Browns not being able to do anything every single week of my life for the last 25, 26 years. So that's always fun, cool, and helpful. We're going to talk about it, though. We're going to get into it. You cannot really talk about the Cleveland Browns without saying, oh, it was at least it wasn't interesting. You can't really say that. You can't say that this team isn't interesting. That doesn't mean they're good. That actually guarantees them to be bad. Because if I'm saying, oh, this team's interesting, that means they're not good. Because if that's the only word I could think of, that's the only word I could think of. But what really stood out today? Well, Myles Garrett, another generational performance, wasted down the tubes, terrible, lost, stupid, multiple sacks, again, 4 sacks. I don't think he got any after the one right out of halftime, but it didn't really matter because he was on pace for greatness anyway at the end of the day. 4 sacks, so he was on pace for like 6 or 7 and kind of went cold there in the third and the fourth quarter, but generational first half performance. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Dillon Gabriel leaves this game, leaving way for Shedeur Sanders to come in and make his NFL pro debut. We're going to talk about that. We're going to react, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, you're still in tank mode. Nothing ever changes with this team week to week with this, especially this season. These are football games you don't really want to win. The team really isn't too caring or too competent when it comes to winning football games, even if it is beating one of your rivals in the Baltimore Ravens. The team that turned into the team that got stolen from the city, whether it's playing for a little bit of pride, they don't really care about that. We all know that that's the case. That's been the case for ever since actually after week 1. If people really want to understand how this season has gone for the Cleveland Browns, you go back and look at week 1. They miss an extra point. They miss a field goal that they should have made. And maybe the season is a little bit differently, probably not too much differently, but at least you have a little bit of hope. Maybe if you win that week 1 game, but Andre Smith couldn't do his job that week. But ever since then, they're tanking. It's evaluation year. It's see what we have. We did stupidly. We drafted 2 quarterbacks. Nobody still has answered this question, why we ended up doing this at the end of the day. You go through Kenny Pickett in training camp. You go to Joe Flacco for the first X amount of games. Dillon Gabriel, now he's hurt. And now it's Shedeur Sanders getting thrown into this game. And we might as well start with that. It's another rookie quarterback. I don't know what people expect to happen. Like, he looked okay on that last drive compared to what I saw the rest of the game, which isn't really saying much because he looked terrible before that, holding on to the ball for too long, not making the best reads, the intentional grounding, taking these long sacks that it's like you're never going to survive in an NFL landscape doing stuff like that as a quarterback. Now, on the flip side, if you want to look at both sides of the coin, he's coming into a game halfway through. Yes, is he probably not getting week 1 reps throughout the whole week? I understand this. Like, there's going to be give and take with the situation here, guys. He's a rookie. You're not going to expect him to come in and light it up his first possession, his first play, his first game in the NFL. But he has the backup quarterback at the end of the day. So 2 things can be true at the same time. Like, hey, you're preparing to be thrown into the game at any given moment, especially with Dillon Gabriel, who's undersized, not that athletic, could get hurt. Any starting quarterback could get hurt. You have to be able to come into the football game and be ready to go. All of these things that we saw during the preseason and what they said about him at Colorado, they look the same here today. They're going to look the same for a while. You could play him for probably the rest of the season. You could still be saying the same things. You might as well at this point. What has Gabriel shown you? Every week I come on here after this team loses and I ask myself the same question and I ask you guys the same question and we talk about the same things. It's like Groundhog Day every single week with this team. What does Dillon Gabriel do at a high level? Nothing. Nothing is the answer. Nothing is the answer. He does nothing at a high level. Processing, not really. Accuracy, I see throws every week where I'm like, yeah, has this guy ever played quarterback in his life? Can't hit easy out routes to the boundary. Athleticism, definitely not. Height, definitely not. All that stuff. Arm strength, no. He doesn't bring anything to the table, and he's been given somewhat of a runway. For a guy that played 6 started, this is my thing with Gabriel. This is why I think we need to move on with Gabriel, and then I'm done talking about him, to be honest, about the situation. You got Gabriel, you have to just push to the side, and especially if he has a concussion, whatever he has, he doesn't return from halftime with a head injury, whatever it may be. He took a big hit in the first half. Okay, understandable. This is why you have to move on from Dillon Gabriel. He started 62 games at college. We're not talking about a project type of guy. We're not talking about redshirt freshman, played 11 or 12 games, was in the national championship. You got him in the third round for whatever magical reason. That's, you don't get those guys in the third round because, that just isn't the reality. It's not how it works. We're not talking about that type of guy. We're not talking about a first rounder who we have a full faith that, with this guy and enough grooming, with enough coaching, and we're going to coach him up, he's going to be the franchise quarterback. You have no expectations of that with Dillon Gabriel. So let's move on. Let's get real. Let's understand the situation. You're week 11. You just concluded week 11. You are 2-8. You're tanking, actively tanking. You can't set up in the right formations. You have illegal formations. You have offsides penalties. You have holdings. You have stupid stuff every game, every week. Let's be real with ourselves. It's time to move Gabriel along. We gave you ample amount of opportunity. We gave you enough dropbacks, in my opinion, for a third round pick. People are going to go, oh, well, you need this, and let's give him 16 games, 17 games. Don't have time for it. If you were a normal organization with a normal head coach and a normal general manager and a normal ownership class, you could say these things, but we're not that. We're not that. We're the Cleveland Browns. We don't have any of that. We never have had any of that since I've been alive, since 99. We have never had any of this. So you cannot operate like you're a competent organization when you're clearly not. The little bit of flashes in the pan doesn't count. The 2020 COVID playoff victory, Stefanski at home in his basement, no fans in the stands. Cool. Will be a core memory for the rest of my life. Loved it. Wouldn't trade it for anything else Browns related. Doesn't matter. Right now, it doesn't matter. The 2023 Joe Flacco victory road comeback tour, revived from the dead, off the couch, doesn't matter. You're still largely an incompetent organization. So you have to move differently. You can't have Dillon Gabriel every week and nothing's changing. He needs better wide receiver. He needs better. Shedeur isn't going to be playing good because I understand this, guys, but the wide receivers aren't getting any better. The offensive line isn't getting any better for the remainder of the season. So you can't operate under that, guys, either. You have to be ready. April of 2026, the end of April 2026, when the NFL draft is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, you have to be ready to take a quarterback with this first overall pick. Or whatever it is, for our first round pick. It could be the first overall pick. You have to be ready for it. So what does that mean? That means getting Gabriel enough reps, which I think they have, to figure out if you have anything there. You clearly don't. He throws third down. He throws before the sticks. He misses easy passes. He doesn't have the arm strength. Everything I've already talked about. Okay, cool. Right. Waste of a third round draft selection. Sunken cost fallacy. Move him along. Now, at least give Shedeur reps with the ones for these last 6 or 7 games, however many it may be. What are we? 2-8, 10 games. So what? We have 6 games left, 17 weeks with a bye, if I'm not mistaken. So you have 6 games left. Let Shedeur, especially with Gabriel injured, just play it. Oh, Gabriel's not ready. We don't want a young guy. It's a head injury. All well wishes, Gabriel. You don't want anybody to get hurt. You want Gabriel to do good. If you're a Browns fan, you want everybody to do good. But, hope is not a strategy. Wishing wishing upon a star, get real. So give Shedeur the 1 reps all week this week. Let him play the rest of the year. See what you have. Maybe you come to find out that he's risky with the football. He takes some sacks. He's not that well prepared, but he could create his own offense. But he could push the ball down the field. but he could unlock Jerry Jeudy, like what we saw from a year ago with Jameis Winston. I'm not sure about all of these things, but maybe you find it out. Maybe you realize, maybe you understand, maybe you learn. Maybe you actually do the evaluating that you told the fan base you were going to do. This front office and this regime is so disrespectful to the fan base that, number one, they can't even put out a good product on the field. That was way long ago. We're over here. We're over here at this point where this was over here, right? Right? They couldn't even do the good product on the field. Now we're all the way over here that they can't even get the developmental talent on the field to evaluate what's going on. We know what we have with everyone else, basically, with all the other rookies. You want to know why? Because they've been playing all year long. Okay. Mason Graham, he's not going to show up in the stat sheet, but he's an impact player. All your advanced analytics, BS. Better than drafting Travis Hunter, most likely. The pressures, the QB hits, the move in the pocket, okay, cool. Schlesinger, defensive rookie of the year. Looks like an all-pro linebacker, especially these last couple of weeks. He looked good before that. He looks really good now. Interception today. Give him the defensive rookie of the year award. I don't care what our record is. He's the best defensive rookie in the NFL, very likely, which is very interesting because everybody thought that was going to be a Travis Hunter award or, an Abdul Carter award. And everybody clowned us for trading out of the spot for Hunter to pick Graham. And then the guy who's leading the race and in a lot of the prediction markets is the guy we got in the third round. So unfortunately, in my opinion, that's going to probably keep Andrew Berry's job is this draft alone, which is fine. We'll get through it. I don't know if he could draft quarterbacks. I don't know if he could draft wide receivers. And I know he can't draft tackles, Jedrick Wills and DeJuan Jones, but we're going to see. We're going to give him another stab at it. We're going to give him all this draft capital and go, okay, here. And Stefanski's going to be back too, because it doesn't really matter. But you haven't. Okay, Gabriel, moving on. Judkins, we know, is good. Sampson, role player, Fannin, good when he catches the football, has a drop problem. Gabriel, not good. So what's the last thing you have to do? You have to look at Sanders. Why is this hard? Is this like difficult processing for this organization to do? That's what's startling to me. Like, how is this not like the simplest year of being in the Cleveland Browns organization? If you really you put the tinfoil hat on, if you really think preseason this year, Haslam, Berry, and Stefanski got together, private, back room, Morton Steakhouse, over the Wagyu steak, and they talked, and Haslam looked them in the windows of their soul and said, Andrew, Kevin, regardless of what happens this year, you guys could be winless. You're going to be safe. Neither of you are getting fired. Now, number one, if you're Kevin and Berry, you got to have a sidebar there, in my opinion. Go, do we think we believe this guy? That's number one. But number two, if you really believe him, and if you really believe that happened, how easy of a year is it for this front office and this coaching staff? And they still can't do it. You don't care about wins. You care about processes. You care about evaluation. You care about getting better at the margins, and they haven't done any of it. We can't line up on defense. We can't run simple plays on offense. We can't even complete simple passes. We can't even have our rookie quarterback understand, hey, when it's 3rd and 7, you have to throw to the sticks. We can't even do that. We can't even understand, let's get Shedeur in there and get some reps. Can't even do that. Let's get to chat. Appreciate everyone being here. If you're here, hit that like button on whatever social media you're watching from. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're following. Make sure you're tuning in, because I crash out every week after this team loses, even though it's the preferred outcome, because we don't want to win. We want a lower draft pick. We want a 1st, 2nd, 3rd draft pick. So I come on here and I talk about the eye test, the optics, the intangibles. I understand at the end of the day, it makes no sense for the Cleveland Browns to win football games at this point in the year, regardless of how embarrassing, sad, and disappointed you are about it. If you understand how the league works, it makes no sense for us to win football games right now. So I come on here and yell at the screen for nothing, but I try to, purvey a point and have people understand my thought process while I'm trying to diagnose and digest this jargon. Kellen, hello, welcome. Thanks for being in here. Yanni Pay, Shedeur is horrendous. He didn't look good. Wasted draft pick. Here's the problem. Here's the problem with 2026. This team has been so deprived of 1st round selections because of the Watson debacle and the dumpster fire of the Watson trade, we don't know how to operate with first round draft picks because we've been doing without him for 3 straight years because of his trade and the 250 million and the allegations and he didn't want to play for us, but as soon as Jimmy said it was guaranteed, welcome to Cleveland, ha ha ha. So all these different things, they don't know how to operate. They don't know how to operate with a first round pick. So you could have very well wasted a third round pick this year and a 5th round pick this year. Not that Barry is going to, pull a rabbit out of his hat with a 5th rounder, but a 3rd round pick. I mean, you got Schlesinger with the 3rd round pick this year. Imagine having another one that wasn't for Dillon Gabriel, of all people, a guy that was a journeyman quarterback in college. This is what still kills me about Gabriel. If you're a journeyman quarterback in college, what makes you think that what leads people to believe that you're going to be a good NFL quarterback? That he might be the first with the NIL and the COVID and the 19 years of eligibility. Dillon Gabriel might be the first journeyman college quarterback ever. Play for all these different schools, not be that good. I mean, good, but not be that great for any of them. And then magically he's a 3rd round draft selection. What other general manager had this guy graded in the 3rd round? Like Jalen Milroe went right before him, if I do remember, out of Alabama. And at least he had projectables. At least he had intangibles, the size, the speed, the athleticism, the arm strength. The Dillon Gabriel pick, really, if we're being super honest about the situation, regarding, it doesn't matter how long we're giving him or not, because you have to understand the circumstances. We need to figure out now if we're going to use our 1st round pick next year, one of them, on a quarterback. The Gabriel pick this year is head scratching. Like, I think people should be losing their jobs over that. Honestly, if Stefanski wanted him, if Barry wanted, whoever it was, that's the person where I'm like, dude, this is crazy. You're torching premier draft capital. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd round to me are premier draft capital. 3rd round, lesser so, but like 1st round, all right, no brainer. Even though it's still pretty difficult to draft in the 1st round, all things considered. Round 2, like you got JOK in the 2nd round, probably a 1st round draft grade, if we're being honest. You got Carson Schlesinger in the 3rd round, probably a 1st or 2nd round draft grade right now. Judkins, very similar. That's the startling part of the whole equation, is that you wasted a 3rd rounder on Gabriel. I want a refund for my time tonight watching this every week. Every week, it's like 3.5 hours and nothing. Like, we know they're going to mess it up. We can't. We honestly are just sitting there waiting for them to mess it up. Did the offense take any snaps or just the defense? You would have thought that the offense didn't take any snaps. Another week, another. Even though Kevin Stefanski is not calling plays, another week of this just being one of the worst offenses ever. Impossible to watch. Not fun. 0 levels of fun. 0 amounts. There's nothing I could look. Judkins in the 1st quarter was kind of fun, kind of cool to watch. That was it. Gabriel, 7 of 10, 68 yards. 7 completions for 68 yards. Okay. Sanders, 4 of 16. For 47 yards and an interception. Judkins, 17 carries for 59 yards, 3.5 average, which is pretty good behind this offensive line. This is the worst offensive line in football. Not particularly close. Any offensive line KT Levison is playing for is the worst offensive line in sports. Sorry, he's terrible. I can't believe he's employed. I can't believe he's employed on NFL roster. He's that bad. Sorry. Gabriel beat OSU one time. I have no idea how. I have 0 idea. No idea. If you wanted to fire Ryan Day last year, screw the Michigan game. It should have been letting this joker beat you. In my opinion, I have no idea how. My word, this team is embarrassing. This team they can't get anything right. They can't even get, I don't know. It doesn't matter. The offensive, whoever's calling plays doesn't matter. Jim Schwartz, of all people, who I feel like has been pretty blameless throughout this whole situation, gets absolutely duped today by the fake tush push, which I can't really blame him because that play is so overpowered, so good, so tough to stop. What are you supposed to do? You have to sell out for it. It's almost like I would be running it half and half. If I'm offenses, I would be running a tush push. I'd be running a fake half. The defense, hey, you have no idea what to do. How do you game plan against that? If you have a guy that can run the tush push effectively, if you have a big body quarterback, or if you have a big body tight end, which every NFL team should have, or if you have a bigger tight end that's athletic that could scramble like Mark Andrews, I don't know why you would. I would be alternating it. Run it to one side, tush push, run it to the other side. How do you defend that? You can't. I don't think you can. I'm not sure it's possible if you could actually defend the tush push and the fake at the same time. When is Stefanski gone? Never. Not never this year. And probably never next year. Honestly, like this dude's going to skate by and like somehow be tenured for years, a decade, 7-8 years. Because this team and this organization, if you want to look at the situation objectively, all they've been doing since the Watson dilemma is just finding repeat ways to duplicate excuses for themselves. That's it. That's as simple gets. What's the excuse this year? Oh, well, had a lot of draft picks, had a lot of rookies, trying to evaluate talent. Pickett got hurt. He was our original plan. Flacco, old, decrepit, we got to, well, they actually used the Watson trade to bail themselves out now. They used the Watson move in the past to bail themselves out in the future. Well, we've been really hamstrung without having these draft picks. This is really the first year we've had all this draft capital. Look at what we did with it. Oh, Schlesinger and Graham and all these Fannin looks pretty good, and Judkins, and we just got to develop. We just got to coach some of these guys up. Who cares about the record this year? Five wins in 34 games. Who cares? Who really gives a shit about all that? It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. This is the first year we've really been able to draft guys and really get them into the system. Do you see the culture we're building? What's the excuse next year? Especially this is why I'm almost guaranteeing they take a quarterback next year with our first pick, regardless of where it's at. If not the second pick, one of these first rounders is going to be a quarterback because you all know why. It gives them a whole nother year of excuses. Well, this is our franchise guy. We're sticking with Stefanski will be at the podium. Well, we're sticking with our franchise guy. Like this, we're sticking with our franchise guy. We really believe in insert quarterback last name X. We really believe in Dante Moore. We really believe in Ty Simpson. Hey, guy. Mary Kay, I understand the question. We really believe in Lenora Sellers. It's only his 12th game. He has 2 passing touchdowns. It's only his 12th game, but we haven't ruined his confidence or anything because we're an incompetent group of fools. So it really doesn't matter. That's why I think next year they're for sure certain to take a quarterback in the first round because it gives them it gives them 17 games. They just keep hitting the refresh button on excuses. Might as well excuse. Just keep spamming it. Jesus Christ. I think you tip your cap if it's Lamar, but old Mark Andrews, come on. It's a good point. Like, you don't have any back end contingencies on the tush push. You don't have one guy back there like, hey, well, you can't stop. Here's my thing. You make a good point, Turner. You can't stop it with 12 people or 11 people, excuse me. Duh. You can't. You probably can't stop it with 12, even if you had the 12 man on the field. I'm so wrapped up with 12 men on the field because we get 12 men on the field penalties. It's like, I forget you're only supposed to have 11 guys on the field, and on offense they're supposed to be set because you're not really supposed to get illegal formations every week. You're not supposed to get these penalties every week into the 11th, 12th week of the year. Back to my point. You can't stop the tush push with 11 players. So why not have a back end spy and just have 10 guys up there? You're not going to stop it with 11, unlikely to. So you might as well have somebody on the back end, trying to sniff out the fake. You make a good point. You make an interesting observation, especially with Mark Andrews. How old is Mark Andrews? 30. He's not that old, but he's pretty old for a tight end. I would have thought he was older than that. But a lot of different factors there. And obviously, Schwartz was caught off guard. He was never thinking that was going to happen. You walk in for a touchdown. They were like the 30-yard line, were they not? He went unabated to the end zone for 20, 30 yards off a tush-push setup. Genius. Tip your cap to Todd Monken. How many injuries? He's had a lot of injuries. He definitely is slow. He definitely is not who he used to be. Clearly. So, in summary, you get swept by the Ravens this year. You have no hope for the rest of the year, nor do you want to win any of these games the rest of the year. You're basically in tankathon mode, hoping you get the first overall draft pick. You're still going to have the keys and Andrew Berry, and the keys to the car are going to be Andrew Berry driving and Kevin Stefanski sitting shotgun, while the Haslams are on their private multi-billion-dollar yacht. That's the situation that we're in. And Dillon Gabriel strapped to the roof, and they left Shedeur they left them down the road. Won't even give him a shot, apparently, unless Gabriel's hurt. So we'll see what they do moving forward. The only metrics I'm looking at the Browns for the rest of the year is let Schlesinger win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Try to get Miles Defensive Player of the Year. They probably won't give it to us. They really shouldn't give it to us because we have 2 wins, but hot topic, could be debated there. Keep everybody healthy for the most part and give Shedeur reps. Those are my only metric, and boycott the games. I would be in for that. Browns fans would never, because FOMO and, oh my gosh, we only get so many home games a year, and I've been a season ticket, and I'm not even really trying to make fun of like diehard fans. That's really that's the opposite of my goal. Like, I respect people who are diehard fans of this franchise and this fan base, like myself, because we put up with the BS week in and week out, year over year over year over year over year over year over year. So I'm not like, don't take it the wrong way, but my family has had season tickets for 50 years, and oh my gosh, and the glory days and this and that. It's like, oh my God, like, you should boycott the games. That's what you do when you're upset at a organization, when you're upset at a company, when you're upset at a franchise. That's what you do. They won't, though. Nobody will. Shedeur will be fine. I would like to know. How good he is, or how. I would like to. Let me put it to you like this. Either way, I would like to know. If he's shit, which he looked today, I would like to know. If he's good, I would like to know. The worst thing you could do is not know. And even if you know, you still could get it wrong. Let's say he looks good and we win a couple of games down the stretch here. Let's just say we gave him the starts for the rest of the year and we go like 500 with him, decent interception to touchdown ratio, serviceable, completion percentage, isn't turning the ball over, decent amount of yardage, stats are there, quarterback rating is there. And you go, okay, maybe we could try this guy next year in a serious role. Maybe we don't have to draft quarterback in the first round, and maybe he'll suck next year, but at least you have to know to be able to make that distinction. That's all I'm saying. At least give Shedeur the keys, give him the starts the rest of the year. Gabriel's not that guy. The rest of the rookies are pretty much spoken for. Sampson's role can fluctuate. Fannin needs to catch the ball. Judkins would be good against good behind an offensive line that had 2 good guys. That's it. The Browns don't even have that. They don't even have 2 good offensive linemen. You can't name them. You can't. Or they're old. The 2 of them that are good are old. So you're going to need new offensive line next year. So that's where you're at. And I hope you don't screw up the draft next year. You got a mock draft, and you got to pray that Andrew Berry and Stefanski, if they're still here, they don't screw up the draft next year, because Stefanski loves Ty Simpson or something. He loves Dante Moore. Let's run it back and pick another Oregon quarterback. Let's just see how many Oregon quarterbacks we could accrue on the roster. Maybe we could draft another one in 2027. Maybe we could just have Dante Moore, Dillon Gabriel, and then whoever Dante Moore's backup is this year, or whoever NIL transfers their ass out there to the West Coast. Maybe in 2028 we could start the year and all 3 quarterbacks could be on our depth chart, could be Oregon alum. It could be a Duck reunion for all I give a. Okay. Okay. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, if you like what you're got like button, make sure you're commenting down below. Make sure you're following. And we'll be back for Cavs. We'll be back for the Browns. And I appreciate you being the pulse of it all. Peace.